Hey, so today we're looking at how to do link building for an e-commerce website. I think it's important to sort of look at what good is for your niche or for your sector, and then start to uncover the opportunities specific to e-com sites. So some can be a little bit broader and some are very specific just to e-commerce retailers. Different industries might be better suited to other types of link building tactics, but the ones that I want to cover here are ones that have worked for me over the past few years for clients, for my own e-commerce site. And yeah, they're ultimately just decent ways to consistently land quality backlinks to your site. So the first one is looking at a competition link intersect, but I think the main takeaway here is that we're not trying to just get every single link that our competitors have. The main thing is looking at the types of publications that we deem to be high authority and they're consistently linking out to competitors over time. So start to understand not the overall amount of links that competition have, but what does good look like for the sector? And then how can you start to approach these publications or these journalists to land similar types of links? So for example here, Ideal Home, perfect if you're for example here we've got kitchen retailer, so interiors more broadly. So this might be something that we could target through a journalist request platform, through proactive expert commentary, maybe some sort of league table piece. And then you've got things like bloggers and publishers a bit further down here, but you can see a lot of scraper sites and low quality sort of directories and things like that as well. So it's not necessarily about just building every single link that your competitor also has. It's understanding what does good look like, and then how do we then obtain those types of links as well. The second one is a really, really good site for e-commerce websites specifically, especially if you've got sort of ample products and you're willing to send those out. So it's Press Loft, and so this is you essentially sign up as a retailer, and you've got journalists and publishers who are looking to put together buyer's guides, things like that. But the good thing about it is sometimes they just literally want an image. So you don't always have to send the products out. Obviously, you can get in touch with them to say, I can send you an image. Oh, would you also like a pic of these products? Sometimes they'll want both. But the good thing is that if you've got really decent images on the site, then you're already halfway there, really. You can see here as well that they've got a new expert quote section, and they've got requests specifically from journalists and publishers, press release section, and obviously you've got all the different categories listed there. But it's quite easy to see as well how if you were a journalist, this is something that you would use quite regularly, especially if you've been tasked with putting together buyer's guides and gift guides and those sorts of things. There's literally an image library there. You could search by different brands as well if you wanted to, but if you're a publisher or you're a journalist, it makes a lot of sense that they just go into here and look for the types of images that they need for the guide that they're putting together. So yeah, you can get a free trial on there, and yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you've got really good images to accompany the products that you're happy to send out as well. So the next one is statistics pages. So this is great for sort of passive link building, but they can be great for sort of bringing organic traffic into the site as well. And interestingly, in ones that you would assume that could be quite broad, quite competitive, they're often not. So obviously something like marketing statistics is super broad, and obviously the competition levels are very high for that. But I would have assumed that something like gardening statistics would have way more competition. And it's not that it doesn't, but the fact that a 2023 statistics guide here is ranking quite well sort of shows that the importance of having a really good put together resource that you're updating throughout the year and just staying on top of it. So it could be quite easy to outrank these types of things. But the good thing about statistics pages really is that you don't have to have the data yourself. So for example, here they put just a really simple statistics data piece on gardening stats. And then every time they've referenced a bit of data, that just goes in the source there. So it's obviously great if you have your own internal data to share, something unique for journalists to find. But most of the time, journalists and publishers, they're just going, okay, industry plus year plus data or statistics. They're literally just doing that kind of search. And even though it's not your unique data, you're just sort of saying, I've got all this data from these places, obviously make sure you attribute it, but here's a really nice resource for you to pick out the interesting points. And that's the main bit, really, making it as easy as possible for journalist or a publisher to go on a page like this and just find the data that they're looking for. But you can see they start to become their own little internal hubs of authority. So then you can add internal links to category pages or subcategories or products, ones that might not naturally get links on their own. It might look a bit unusual. So it's a really nice way of allowing that authority to flow from the links that you're getting quite passively into more commercial pages on the site. So for example, here on that gardening stats piece, they've got a link from the Sun where they're literally quoting the start and then where they found it, which is this article, but it's not their data specifically. So you can see, I can't imagine they did any sort of active outreach for this sort of thing. It's more a case of journalists just going, oh, I need some gardening stats, what's showing at the minute, and it often can be that easy. The main thing is creating a really nice resource and making sure that it's updated throughout the year. So another big thing is don't put the date in the URL. So if it's 2024 stats at the moment, just make it, fashion stats or gardening stats or whatever it is. So every time you change the URL, it's a brand new page for Google to recrawl, rediscover, and there's inevitably going to be some organic fluctuations there. Whereas if you just have the year in the on-page elements, the content side of things, it's obviously much easier to update and you're not having to change the URL then. Calculators are an interesting one as well. So these aren't necessarily like the passive link elements that stats pages can offer, but they're very contextual towards your target audience and they can bring some decent traffic. They could also get links as well. So I think I've just got an example here on like a shed-based calculator. So even if the traffic and the search volumes aren't massive for these sorts of things, someone searching for this is, they're pretty sure of what they're after. So naturally, you can take them through a calculation or some sort of step-by-step process, and that could end in a call to action or an internal link to a product or a category. So for example here, okay, they've only got one referring domain, but that's pretty decent traffic levels, I'd say, for something that they might have even just used a plugin to create it. So on something like WordPress, or you've got an e-commerce site on WooCommerce, there's so many different calculator plugins and those name generator type of things. So if you can find something that makes sense for your target audience and something that can genuinely help them, it's definitely worth looking at the calculator opportunities for your site as well. So the next one is journalist requests, really popular type of link building. For the purposes of an e-commerce site though, I would say a platform like Quoted is probably the best. One, because you can sign up as an expert, so you can attribute that expertise back to the store, and you can start to target not only these really broad, massive sort of international publications that everybody already knows, but there's usually some pretty decent niche publications on there as well with some good authority. So you can set up your expert profile, start to monitor different hashtags across the site. And yeah, it is a premium platform, but it's definitely worth doing whether you're in a niche industry or not. There's so many different opportunities on there, and it's just quite handy because everything's done within the platform and you can see how many responses a certain request has already got. Taking this one step further, so sort of flipping the journalist request approach on its head. So when I first started doing this as a productized service for clients, we were just doing the journalist request side. And then, you might have something that's quite niche and there's not that many requests that come through. So proactive expert commentary is pretty much the same thing, but instead of waiting for a request, you're finding something interesting or an expert angle or a bit of data and you're taking that directly to the journalist. So, absolutely something you can do in the e-commerce space as well. The way that I like to look for opportunities here is just really simple searches around things like, what's the broader industry? So we're in the fashion industry more broadly. Okay, which journalists have covered things like I'm a fashion expert or fashion expert reveals over the last year or over the last couple of months. And we can start to put together target lists of journalists for us to go after. And, it's just a really nice way to approach the expert commentary journalist request side of things without having to put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to just sitting there waiting for replies. Another approach as well that's really good is filtering by the sort of current period this time last year. So for example, if we wanted to say prep for outreach in November, we could do that in, let's say, October or September even. Start to see, right, we'll do plan 2 months in advance. What were people covering in November this time last year? And then, sort of increases the chances there that you're sending something out that is relevant and, you know, could possibly get covered. So for example, around fashion, it could be things with like Black Friday deals, certain advice for fashion and clothing and different styles going into a Christmas period, and then you've got ones around like different types of deals and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's just another nice way of seeing who covered something similar this time last year, and then also can we just get them added to our outreach list because they've already covered something similar in the last 12 months. If you've got a bit more resource on the content side, then putting together these types of broader league tables are fantastic as, you know, one, the passive element, so similar to like the statistics pages, but with this you are putting together your own sort of data tables that you're taking from various different sources. But the main thing that I really like about this is that it opens up quite a lot of nice outreach opportunities. So, you know, with an expert commentary piece, it's just the one press release that's going to, say, 50 journalists or 100 journalists. But something like this, let's say it was the 10 most fashionable cities in the UK, based on all these different data points that you put together, well, then you can outreach to all 10 of those cities and journalists in those cities. So you've got those 10 different opportunities there. Then you've also got opportunities to do broader national press releases on top of it as well. So something like, you know, Moss Bros have quite a nice one where they've got, yeah, most fashionable UK cities here. We've got another one doing exactly the same thing. And then you've even got one here, Time Out, where they've covered data that has been sent to them by a site. So you can see how you could publish the data on your own site as like its own sort of linkable asset and outreach based on that. Or you could literally just package up that information in different tables and data tables and send that out to relevant publications and journalists. So it doesn't necessarily have to sit on your site, but if you think it was something that, you know, is also relevant for your audience as a method of organic traffic acquisition, then you could add that to the site as well. But you don't always have to. Sometimes it's just a case of how can you package up the findings nicely and get it sent out to relevant journalists. So the next one is publisher outreach. So there's a couple of ways you can approach it. You could literally just search for bloggers in your industry. The way that I like to go about it, whether you're looking for link insertions or, you know, broader guest posts and blogger outreach, is what are the types of sites that are similar to us that are proactively doing blogger outreach, and then who else are they getting links from? So first, really, you want to start by finding a blogger, whether they're relevant to your niche or they might be a little bit outside of it. But really what we want to be looking for is evidence of them being open to collaborations, whether that's guest posting, linking to some sort of gifting, anything like that. And then we can go to Ahrefs and look at their outgoing links to their link domains and start to see, right, who have they linked out to recently that are similar to us or, you know, in a similar space to us. Okay, so really broadly, let's say it was Half Price Perfumes. Let's see where else they're getting guest posts on, because they're clearly getting one from this site. So who else has worked with them, or who else are they working with? So for example here, we could just filter domains by DR 30 to 70 and show us with between domain traffic of 500 to 20k. And we can start to look at all the different bloggers and publishers that they've got links from. Now, obviously, it doesn't end here. There needs to be a vetting process. If you sign up to my newsletter, there is a link in the resources hub with a blogger checklist. So you can expand that as you want, but essentially all that's looking for is things like, does the blogger link out to casino and forex and those types of grey niches? Have they been hit by the helpful content update heavily? Do they have active social presence? And are they, as ridiculous as it sounds, are they a real person, not just like an AI profile picture? But you have to go through all these different checks just to make sure it's not a link farm that you're reaching out to. And it really doesn't take that long once you've got a process in place. But, you know, you absolutely can find decent bloggers and publishers to work with. You just have to go through this vetting process, because it will just save you in the long run, and meaning that your link equity from whoever you work with doesn't diminish over time. Then the final one is gifting. So, you know, something that is quite specific to e-commerce sites. So spoke about Press Loft around the start, but if you didn't want to use a premium platform, you could do something like hashtag journal request or blogger request on Twitter. So you could literally just go sort by latest, and it's pretty easy to see all the different ones there, all the different opportunities. Again, really what we need to do is apply that vetting process to this. So in the same way, if you're doing active blogger outreach, exact same thing here, unless it's obviously like a massive news site or something like that, like the Telegraph or something like that. But for any smaller bloggers, have that vetting process in place so you can make sure that you're outreaching to a decent site. Or you can literally just look at who was creating gift guides this time last year, who's got gift guides on their site, and use a tool like Hunter just to proactively outreach to them to say, I think I've got products that are relevant to this gift guide, so are you looking to update it this year? Or if not, if you're introducing any new gift guides to your site, I'd love to contribute products if you feel they're relevant. So yeah, that's all the different approaches that I would take when it comes to link building for an e-commerce site. Those are the ones that I think definitely can move the needle over time. I think if I had to prioritize anything, I would say a blend of journalist requests and expert commentary. Those two together can get some really nice links into the root domain, to the homepage, really start to get some equity built up into the site, and then also explore those gifting opportunities, because there's so many opportunities throughout the year, and you could tie that into that broader blogger outreach side of things as well. Like I said, if you sign up to the All About SEO newsletter, you'll get this resources hub checklist. So there's a link building guide in there, blogger outreach analysis sheet, and I'll just keep adding to this over time whenever I make new sheets and reference different processes. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful. If you've got any questions about e-commerce link building, just let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. And if I don't hear from you, I'll see you in the next video.